You want a million pod?
Yeah, let's go.
Cool. Hey, everybody. Welcome to A Million Little Podcast. This is episode 17 of season 2, a year later, and this is not quite a week later after the last podcast I did. I'm Kevin McCaffrey with my friend. Last podcast I did with my friend, I was going to say, Dave Miller, who is in Chicago right now. What is up, Dave?
How's it going, guys? Hopefully everyone's coping the best they can with the pandemic.
Yeah, you, as we said before, you and I have sort of been living the quarantine life since before it was cool, but it is different.
It's pretty brutal. I'm not making this up. Like, I did not need toilet paper, but this past Sunday, since I hadn't seen it on the shelf since Wednesday, it said, go ask your store associate, we have it. I picked it up. I kid you not. I bought a 4-pack for $10.99 at Walgreens. I will write a letter to the Walgreens CEO because that's flat-out price gouging. I get if you're a mom and pop, it's still not right.
Right.
But it was legitimately Walgreens $10.99 for a 4-pack.
Wow, fuck. We got Consumer Reports on the show. And like a Walgreens in Chicago.
Yep.
Like downtown fucking Chicago. Yep. That's insane.
I understand if it's a mom and pop, which is still not right.
Sure.
But at least they're hurting more. $10.99 for a 4-pack at Walgreens. And in the sale paper that came out that Sunday morning in the Sunday paper, they had more. They had like a 6-pack for $6.99. So like they were just making up prices on the go.
Hey, man, this is a good example of how you and I are different. Just like you have been like such a like a grown adult man when it comes to that kind of stuff. Like I have never seen a coupon in my life. I don't know. Not only have I never seen a coupon in my life, I don't know what anything costs. And we're both people from similar economic backgrounds. You and I, we just go two different ways. You go the smart way. My view is I'm just fuck it. I buy what I need, whatever that is. I can't think about the price. But
for sure, yeah, no, this has happened several times. But in the past, I just remember you like buying something like, say it's like a 1 roll of toilet paper at 7-Eleven, $2.99. I know I can easily get that for $69 somewhere. You don't even care; it doesn't even go through your mind.
I have what does a banana cost? I have no idea. Yeah. It's that's my life. So all right, so we're back. This actually catches us up to present day on this podcast for the first time in a while, Dave. After we lost the dearly departed Jamie, my wife who is gone. She's around. She's in the other room. But yeah, this is a year later. How you feel about this episode, Dave?
I mean, it was deep. It definitely was. I think it was deep. It was good. It had the feeling of season 1, which not to say that I haven't enjoyed season 2, but I had that feeling of season 1 again.
I thought it was good. I thought it had me writing down more quotes than I usually do, which I think is a good thing. But yeah, it also typically I'll break the show up by character, but I feel like this episode, I mean, everyone had their own thing, but everyone was so intertwined with each other having important moments that I feel like it was difficult to do it just character by character, you know. So it's from an organizational standpoint difficult for me, but I thought it was like good. It was a pretty seamlessly put together show that, you know, the premise is it's a year anniversary of Jon Dixon jumping, and so it's a heavy episode for them. It's a big marker, but I agree. I thought it was well done. And we start with Gary on the VO. You always note who's on the recap, or the recap. I guess recap, and just like taking us to where we're at now, right?
Yeah, for sure, setting the scene. And yeah, I just think it's. I always write it down because a lot of times the episode centralizes on that person. In this one, we got all the characters, but it's just, you know, it's almost like from that person's viewpoint.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it starts with Gary's having a dream.
Yeah, Gary having a dream, and we find out it's a recurring dream where this one's a little bit different because Maggie's in it, but this particular one where it's Jon who has cancer and he can't reattach like the IV drip or whatever, and it's a phone charger, and obviously the joke about girls in his past leaving the phone charger behind, but it's just basically a nightmare on the 1-year anniversary of, and Gary just realizing that like his life is not in control.
Yeah, and they go to they play a basketball game, which is something they all used to do together. And didn't Gary have like a meltdown in an earlier basketball game?
Yeah, I think it was late last year, I feel like, but I feel like there's probably been at least two, but there was one where he walked out of the gym, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And so it's nice that he's still got it. He can still have a good basketball game meltdown. I mean, that's honoring Jon like as well as anything else. I also like that when I ask questions like that, it just reminds me that we have a podcast where our listeners for sure know far more details about this show than I do. They at least...
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's hard because I feel like I'm pausing every minute to just write something down. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure. And tweet at us at @1,000,000podcast, and people do let us know little details we missed when we're talking about stuff like this. But yeah, I remember Gary melting down on the basketball court. And here he has, I mean, I guess it's a meltdown too, but he's not like being mean to anybody. He's basically saying, you guys got your lives together. He's like, last time, I guess he's talking about his previous meltdown where he told Eddie, you're in a loveless marriage. And what was the other thing? What did he tell Rome? Was it just about, quit your job that you hate?
Oh, yeah, quit the job.
Yeah, and he's like, and I haven't done anything with my life. Which, Gary, you're better than that. You need Dave and Kevin to come give you a pep talk because Gary's the fucking glue.
Oh, Gary is the glue. And that's the thing. And the self-realization in itself is like progress for him. You know what I mean? The fact that he realizes that he does want to make these changes. But yeah, he's being, if anything, he's being a great friend. That's all. And that's the start,
That is the thing he's done with his life over the past year, is that he's been the best friend to everybody. But I also get how doing that, it doesn't feel like you're doing as much, Yeah,
because there's nothing tangible, There's no, you might not have the best job, you might not have the best relationship with the girl, but this is stuff, it's not really tangible, but everyone else he's affecting everyone around him in a good way.
Right, totally. Yeah. So also when Gary's making like very on the nose references and jokes to Jon jumping off a building, do you remember what any of those specific things he said were in that scene?
No, I wrote down, says he's pissing his life away, makes heartless joke.
I'm okay with the joke because...
Yeah, he joked that he would be the one to jump off a bridge because something like the last time Jon put him in his place, Jon was the one that jumped, sort of. So he's saying since he's putting Rome and Eddie in their place, he's going to be the one to jump. I think it was something like that.
Sure, yeah, but it's basically calling out the thing that everyone's thinking about but no one's saying. And that's not the thing to do in every situation, but around your best friends, you have to be able to do that. I mean, I think some of the things that make you and I laugh the most when we're talking to each other is just like saying the most like true horrible things that are happening.
Yeah. It's like a circle of trust, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, yeah.
You're not going to do anything stupid,
No, and it's a thing, too, where he wouldn't necessarily be saying that, like, in front of Delilah. It's like a different dynamic and a different thing. But, yeah, around these guys, it's like, it's not him trying to be a dick to them. It's like this is his version of sharing how hard he feels about it,
Yeah, it's his way of trying to work things out.
Mm-hmm. And so he had the one dream. Eddie had the other dream.
Yeah, and that's going to take central focus, I think, as we near towards the end of this season. We referenced it on last podcast at the end of last show. His sister referenced the lake house, and 20 years ago, how come we haven't been back? And we knew we couldn't hear the person's name, but he mentioned about that was the last time we saw. Well, we know now it's Alex, this girl who apparently died at the lake. I mean, I'll just spit my theory now. Obviously, I assume that Eddie was drunk boating because he had a dream where he's drinking beer with Jon in the boat, and then Jon falls overboard, and then the last thing he sees is a hand reaching out with like Magellan or some sort of nail polish. So my theory is it's probably obvious, but maybe he went drunk boating, and that was his girlfriend at the time, and died, or cousin, maybe.
Yeah, right, cousin, friend, something. So we think so Alex is the one with the turquoise nails.
Yeah, because he references on the voicemail to his sister at the end.
Right. Yeah, in that dream, it's like, it basically, as Gary pointed out when he was dream interpreting, he's like, oh, well, this is clearly guilt you feel about a couple of people, and the beer is because you're an alcoholic. And then Eddie was like, yeah, thanks. Like, I got that part, which was a funny little line. But, yeah, I wrote down that basically it was like his problems threw Jon overboard, he felt like, because obviously he was hooking up with Jon's wife, and that, is one of the many things going on in Jon's life before he jumped. And I wrote under the title of this episode, I just wrote, this is basically the guilt episode. It's a lot about guilt. And I think that's a thing when you have a friend go through something. If your friend gets to a really bad place, I think it's natural, although not entirely helpful, to look at it through the lens of yourself, where basically both Gary in his dream and Eddie in his dream are like, how could I have helped? Basically like this feeling guilty for the person who's in a worse place, when it's like, it's not really about you or what you did. It's about them. Yeah.
For sure. And in a way, they were helpless. Like, obviously, Gary couldn't help Jon because it kind of had nothing to do with Gary. And Eddie couldn't help Jon because it kind of had nothing to do, even though, yes, he was cheating. It was not about him.
Right. Totally. Yeah. So what do we want to keep going along with, Gary or Eddie, since we've intertwined those two a little bit there?
Oh, yeah, we can do either one. Do you want to stick with Eddie and deal with the Katherine stuff?
Sure.
Okay, yeah, so Katherine obviously quit her job last week, had an interview this week, was offered a job on the spot. We joke, Kevin, how great would it be for us to get offered a job on the spot?
It doesn't happen a ton. I always, and in my line of work as a performer comedian, typically when I get offered the job, that's the only thing that happens with the. Usually I hear nothing, or it's just like, here's a weekend, or here, you're booked on this show. That's it. There's not really a negotiation about it, but yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, she gets an offer, but not satisfied. I'm thinking maybe I think they said something like, oh yeah, we could really use you, maybe referencing a female or like an Asian American, diversity type thing.
It could be any of those things, but that's exactly what she means. Yeah.
Yeah, and then so Eddie says, to start her own business, and that's something that I think we talked about last week, that, do some pro bono stuff or just do your own thing. And then, towards the end of the episode, the surprise at the end of their dinner is a new office for Katherine, which is above the restaurant. I believe they were using it for storage, but that's part of the thing where Jon last year set up the rent, bought the place, and so.
Yeah, I wrote, a lot of people get real estate as gifts in this show. A lot of real estate going around in Boston for this particular group of friends. Must be nice, but, whatever. That's fine. And Katherine, as you said, Katherine basically didn't love the feeling she got from the place she interviewed with, and Eddie encourages her to go out on her own. And Eddie's like, I had this weird life of being an artist for a long time that you supported with your stable job. It's time for me to support you a little bit. So that's showing Eddie's growth since last year. And he's kind of psyched to be like the stable one for a while and to let Katherine start her own thing.
For sure. And he mentions that the record agency or record group, whatever, is going to have him start working with some more new artists. So this seems to be like a permanent gig for Eddie, working with new artists.
Yeah, so that which seems solid for him, even though Dakota sucks. Dakota sucks. Eddie. Oh yeah, the only other Eddie things, he's still got the Jon Dixon final voicemail on his phone, where it says "love each other," basically. And then he also says he doesn't want to go to the anniversary dinner they're having for Jon, basically, because he's in a bad place with Sophie, and he just feels weird. And then the part in the dream, which we find out later, is about Alex, with the turquoise nails. At first he thinks it's about Sophie. He tries to talk to her, and then Sophie ends up being the one to step up, come to him, and then take him to Jon's gravesite for the first time, because he's never been.
Yeah, I'm digging some Sophie this year. Again,
Another layer.
Yeah, another layer. We get Danny for 4 seconds. I know that probably upset Jamie, but yeah, so I'm digging Sophie. She's, becoming more of an adult. She no longer hates her mom, no longer hates Eddie. She's realizing that life is complicated. It's not black and white. So, yeah, drives Eddie to the cemetery to apologize to Jon.
I do just think it's funny that, like, what you said is exactly right, but just thinking of a 15-year-old being like, life is complicated, and she's like, sometimes your French mom bangs another guy. It's just like she's just like a French adult woman. I'm just picturing Sophie with a cigarette being like, who even knows? Everyone's life is complicated,
Oh, for sure. It's like Dawson's Creek where they played 15-year-olds and talking like they're adults.
Oh, yeah. You're one of your favorites of all time.
Yeah.
But sorry, yeah, keep going.
Yeah, so no, they're at the cemetery. That's when Eddie's finally able to sort of let go a little bit of guilt by apologizing to Jon. And then Sophie admits that she's tired of being mad at people. So, and then they come to the dinner with cookies, smiling and laughing. So, yeah, the dinner ended up going well, nothing catastrophic.
Yeah, and and then he shares the voicemail with Sophie too, as well. So that's a little thing. And then let's go. I guess we can we can pop back over to Gary for a second. Apparently, he did hook up with the single mom, and then I guess at the end of the show, maybe someone else too. Do we know who Becky is?
Yeah. No, Kevin. What happened was he hooked up with Becky, who is the laser tag girl,
the one behind the counter.
Yes. So the Darcy is the single mom. So Darcy got the number in last week's episode. So absolutely hooks up with the laser tag girl. But part of his growth at the beginning of the episode is saying it was a one-night stand and I told her that's all it was. So that's part of the growth sort of thing.
Yes. And it is. Also, I wrote down, after a one-night stand, I feel like you don't have to show up, right?
Yeah, no, that's the definition of a one-night stand. Yeah, she probably doesn't want to hang out with an old guy either.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Just, I mean, she'll just TikTok him something with all the age jokes they were making about her. Just TikTok me, it's over. Just do a lip sync to Beyonce's Irreplaceable, to the left, and then I'll know there was a one night thing.
That's fantastic. So yeah, at the end when he picks up the phone and dials, obviously we all think it's Maggie. No, he asked Darcy for a drink. Darcy is the single mom. The hot single mom, the veteran. And,
I mean, hot single mom, as she said, too.
Oh, yeah.
Her words.
Yeah. So, but it's surprising because, she jokes around, I hope this isn't just a one-night stand, or what is this? And he's like, no, this is a fresh start. Mm-hmm. So this is Gary closing the door on the Maggie thing because he finds out from Rome that she's going to England. And no, Darcy is definitely fresh start material, but no, this is basically Gary saying he is going to move on.
He's trying it,
He's trying, yeah.
Yeah, and he basically meets up with Maggie and he apologizes to her for. They meet up in the bathroom, have like a jokey, this is kind of how we started in a room like this, and he apologizes to her for putting too much pressure on her. Where him trying to save her was certainly. It was a kindness, but also he was making his whole life's meaning about this person who he was in a pretty new relationship with. So he apologized to her for that, and then she apologized saying, like, she wasn't perfect, too, and she brought a lot of her own shit, so that was kind of a nice sort of tying things up for them, I guess.
Absolutely, and like a lot of things in life, it's all about timing, and unfortunately, their timing was good for each other for like 6 months or however long that was. But now the timing is not so good.
Yeah, tell me about Maggie since we hopped over to her, since she's involved here in this.
Yeah, so we have Maggie primarily in this episode talking to Delilah, saying that she shouldn't feel guilty about like hooking up with Miles. So this Miles guy calling Delilah wants to chat. Obviously, it's not the right time on the 1-year anniversary, but we see the last couple of weeks we've seen a lot of Maggie telling Delilah, like, live your life, don't feel guilty. So that's her role early in the episode. And then...
Yeah, she says if you're not ready to move on, that's one thing. That's cool. But if it's because you feel guilty, then that's, I don't accept that.
Exactly. And then in the middle of the episode, we see Maggie getting a visit from Rome as a de facto therapy session. Like, obviously, we know friends can't be therapists for each other, but Rome comes over with like smoothies and has a de facto therapy session because he had a little bit of a falling out with his dad.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Maggie tells Rome about Oxford, and then at the end we see Rome spilling the beans to Gary about Oxford.
Do not tell Rome or Gina secrets.
For sure, yeah. Don't tell Rome or Gina secrets. We do find out though that Maggie, I don't know who she says it to. You might remember, it might be Gina. She admitted to someone that she's actually not sure if she's ready to go to Oxford, but you know.
She said it's the first time. Yeah, Maggie says it's the first time in her life. Like it's her saying to Rome, because when Rome sits down with her in the office, and then she says, Maggie does say, "What's the confidentiality agreement from doctor to patient?" And then Rome just fucking gives it away immediately. Which Rome, I was like, Rome, that is not cool, actually, to tell her secret after you talk like that. Gina's saying that it was Gary felt the same way about Maggie. I felt like that's a more okay slipping of a secret, but I was like, Rome, this is not your place, dude. That's not cool. But what she told Rome there is she said, it's the first time in my life that I haven't wanted to leave.
Absolutely, and then even when Delilah says she wishes she had a second chance with John, Maggie looks over to Gary, and she's probably thinking, I wish we had a second chance too. So,
man, yeah. Delilah, I thought I know it, but the actress who plays Delilah did a great job in this one. I felt like she was very calm and believable and confident, and she to me she hit like the like heaviest emotional chord, I would say, as Delilah was saying that, like, I miss who we were and that I never got to grieve my husband because there was a bunch of other shit going on. He had just killed himself, had a mystery. There was a Barbara Morgan involved. Obviously, she had cheated on him, and then that had come out with one of his best friends. So she never really got the chance to just sort of traditionally grieve the husband she lost. And then
Well, I'm glad they actually included that line in this about Delilah not having time to grieve, because we've joked all the time on this podcast about like how so much is happening, and it's like, the guy just died and all this stuff is happening. But yeah, it's true though. We had all this stuff going on. Delilah never had a chance to grieve, so I'm glad they laid that out there.
Yeah, and her saying that she missed him is like a truly heartbreaking thing. And I think you don't have to have someone die in your life to relate to that feeling. I think, you can grieve friendships like that. You can grieve relationships like that where you miss the person who was there a while ago. Like, if the person has changed, if your relationship has changed, like, grieving that and missing that is like, oof, man, that's a heavy hit. And in terms of like the big dramatic thing, him jumping off a building, you losing your husband like that, but then there's other shit going on. Man, Dave, dude, like, what a better example of that than like where we are just now in the world, where it's like, this is this insane thing. It's basically 9/11 and this coronavirus shit are the two biggest things in our lifetime at this point in terms of life disrupting. But there's other shit going on. Like, there's shit like, you're getting over fucking face shingles. Like, the people are losing their jobs. I talked to, there's a friend I know who's a teacher, and like one of her kids' parents was murdered recently. It's like there's just a bunch of like other shit going on. Life doesn't stop for any of this.
No, bills don't stop. Other bad things in life. Yeah, even though they should. Other bad things in life don't stop. It's just one after another. It's just brutal.
Yeah, but Delilah, friggin' great job in this episode, I thought.
Yeah, I thought so too. I'm liking the growth of really all the characters this year.
Everyone was good.
Yeah, it was a great episode, and especially Delilah and Sophie. I'm glad, their character development's been good this year.
Mm-hmm. So we got Rome and Gina. You tell me about them.
Yeah, we have Rome and Gina. We mentioned about the gossiping. I always feel like in every episode there's a Rome and Gina moment where they're kind of like cutesy gossip, like cutesy whispering, trying to be like good friends, trying to piece relationships back together. There's always
a couple's thing.
moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and so we had Rome's dad being not great again, refusing to go to therapy. Yeah,
he's
terrible.
back on his bullshit.
He's back on his BS. Comes around towards the end, but Rome was able to get Gina to go over there and explain how Rome wasn't even forthright with her about how he was feeling, and then
he's like, "Oh, okay, I feel better about it if it's not just me because I'm a big fucking baby and I'm never gonna grow up."
Yeah, he's a big baby. I thought he had his self-realization a few weeks ago. Like, I thought him and Rome were good. I'm surprised in this episode they brought him back to have another tiff with Rome. But it ended up working out. He realizes that him and Rome are more alike than, which again, he kind of realized 2 weeks ago, I thought. But.
Yeah, and in some ways they're more alike, but Rome's obviously better because he's not a piece of shit and his dad's a piece of shit. You can be depressed and a piece of shit. You can get you a guy who can do both. Get you Rome's dad. He sucks and he's depressed. But he says basically, he's a big baby. He finds the script. He reads the script, which he never would have read the script if Rome just gave it to him and asked him to. He never would have read it. But he did since he could find a way to be a victim about it, and Rome rightfully is like, see, this is exactly why I didn't tell you. You find out that I tried to kill myself and you attack me about it instead of trying to make sure I'm okay. It's like, fuck yeah, dude, like your dad sucks. You're right, Rome, you don't need that shit.
Yeah, so again, hopefully I'm kind of over. Like I mentioned Dakota last week, I'm over her. We may be done with her. The Rome dad.
Let's get Rome's dad, Dakota, what's his name? The guy who had the heart lie, Eric. Get them all. They should form a band and get the fuck out of here.
Also Miles. I'm adding Miles to that.
I'll throw Miles in. Sure. Yeah. So they're, so that's what Rome and his dad there. And like you said, Gina goes in and basically tries to explain things to Rome's dad again.
Yeah. I think a lot of this episode was, the big thing for Gina was being the mediator between Rome and the dad. Outside of that, just being a good listener and a good friend in this episode. She was in the kitchen a lot making the lasagna. So
she had it was a funny thing where, she was watching Maggie. Basically, what was Maggie doing? Was she like cranking pasta? That's a thing I've never done in my life, whatever she's doing.
Yeah, there was a time in cooking class where we made our own noodles. I think they were making their own lasagna noodles.
Okay.
That's what I think was.
And it was fun watching her just be like, is that right? Sure. Clearly it's not, and clearly it's bothering her because this is her business. I thought that was a light, nice touch there. Yeah. And there was a quote I wrote down from, I guess I wrote down a couple quotes from Gina and Rome. One where she was saying, a year ago, our friend killed himself. I can't think of a better time to talk about happiness. When I forget even who it was, but in a scene was being like, tonight's not the time to talk about me or whatever,
Yeah, I recall that as well.
Yeah.
It might have been, I wonder if it was Maggie. I feel like the other thing is, and I feel like there's a lot of 1 minute scenes, sort of like quick conversations and jumping around, but
yeah, they fit a lot in this one.
They do, yeah.
Yeah, and Rome in the toast after, man, R.I.P. my wife Jamie. Theo has rarely been back on his bullshit more than he is in this one, where he walks in wearing a fucking King Tut head and is talking about stuff, and then gives a super deep toast, at the dinner where he says the Egyptians believe that everyone dies twice, one when you take your final breath, and once when someone speaks your name for the last time. So as long as we don't stop talking about and remembering Uncle John, he never goes away. So that was very nice.
It was. I go back and forth on Theo. I've said in the past I'm not the biggest fan of his character, but sometimes him being a little man is good, and sometimes it just aggravates me. But no, it was a good stuff.
Yeah, I think the weirder they go, the better. And Gary had a good line in this where he's like, "This guy Theo, you get weirder every time I see you." And it's like, yeah, he really does. But that makes me feel like they're leaning in to who this kid actually is as a real person a little more. And if that is true, then I'm in favor of it. I also. I was down on Theo early on, and took me longer to come around to him than Danny. But Theo's doing great lately.
For sure, another good character development this year. All the characters.
Yeah, and Rome following that is like, that's a tough follow, that speech, and says everyone here's in a better place. He credits and basically talks about how Jon helped them basically start living, which is, that sort of sentiment can sound corny, but it's also real here.
True. And at the very end, speaking of, you have to start living, Jon tells Delilah in the little dream sequence at the very end, you have to let me go, you deserve to be happy. So yeah, it's about, this episode definitely about letting go of guilt, anger, live life, be happy.
Yeah. And Rome also, he credits Gary and says it's never too late to start over. And yeah, like you said, with the Delilah scene at the end, and then finally she's meeting up with Jon in her dreams, which she said she never could do, and she was kind of jealous that the others could, and that's sort of how we, after that scene, we see Delilah sleeping on the couch, and that's where this meetup is happening. And oof, that got me a little bit. That was solidly done with the Delilah scene.
It was great. Well, I didn't think it was going to end like that because on my DVR. So, like, on your channel guide, it says 9:01 to 10 o'clock, so 59 minutes. But on the DVR, it's like at the 56-minute mark. I'm like, oh, there's still a couple minutes left. But that's unless my TV was wrong. But I thought something bad was going to happen where, like, Sophie sees, like, a bad text. So I'm glad it didn't happen,
Yeah, Sophie takes a pregnancy test and she's pregnant or something. Yeah. I guess the teaser is when Eddie realizes in his dream he wasn't dreaming about Sophie. He was dreaming about that, the mystery death at the lake house. Just the sort of the mystery on the side of all these people's lives that we get one of those every so often on this show.
Yeah,
so I guess,
we'll see if that derails Eddie because, they're going to renew their vows, Katherine and Eddie. So, yeah.
Yeah, great call. How'd you feel about that scene?
I thought it was great. I thought it was well done. It was good because it's Katherine taking control of the situation, being like, I'm happy, I'm going to have this new practice
She's
now.
The alpha.
Yeah, she is. She's the alpha. She took control, and she's like, you're forgiven in my eyes, and let's just go full circle and, renew our vows.
It's a pretty good, I mean, they've told a pretty good, interesting, complicated, fucking, French adult, like a gray area story with those two where they were in a terrible place. Obviously, he cheated. He cheated with a friend of theirs that they're still both friends with, had a baby with her, and then I kind of do really believe he and Katherine are into each other again, and they are like a different couple now. So it's sort of a renewal that's not just an excuse to have a party. It seems like it's a renewal that is like getting married for real. And I loved it. I thought Kat proposing was perfect there. I call her Kat. We're very tight.
Oh yeah, or Katie.
Yeah, Katie.
That's what I call her.
Yes.
Which I hate. But yeah,
she's not a Katie to me.
No, she's not. But she mentioned she feels part of the group now. She had that little speech where she says because she was Jon's friend. I mean, yeah, she was tight with Gary too, but she admits that she now feels like part of the group, and she didn't really feel that before.
Yeah, totally. That's the last character note I think I had was right there. Glad you caught that one. Anything else you had, Dave?
No, I think we're good there.
Sweet. The only other note, we had the song that played over the montage toward the end. What's so funny about Peace, Love, and Understanding? Which I love the Elvis Costello version, which is the version most people know. But this was Nick Lowe, the Nick Lowe version, who actually wrote the song. Costello's is a cover, so it's one of those people know the cover more than the original. But this is the
son of a gun. I like Elvis Costello, but I was ignorant to that song. Unless if I hear it now, I probably realize. But I'm glad you caught that because you always take care of the music, and that's a good song.
You heard the Costello version at Jamie and my wedding. Actually, it was the one that it was the one that wouldn't play. So we played. It eventually did, but we played Under Pressure twice.
Okay. Yes. No. I remember that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So cool. Follow us at A Million Little Podcast on Instagram, at A Million Little Pod on Twitter. Yeah. Anything else, Dave? Before I guess we got another episode. In 2 days, and then we'll be able to get that one right up too.
Yeah, no, we're as of now we're caught up. Just next week we see Gary and Darcy hang out, but I believe she says in the scenes they go so fast. I believe she says she has another leave, so I think that's what she says. So she has to go back overseas or something. So Gary might lose her, and then what's the other thing? Oh, the Eddie stuff. So we'll see how much Eddie's derailed.
Yeah. I do love watching, like, especially in an episode like this, it caught me where a very dramatic, touching thing ends, and then it goes straight to, like, commercial. It's like, Shark Tank is the next, like, see what the sharks freak out about this week. It's Pete Buttigieg is hosting Kimmel. Yeah. So weird little smash cut there, I guess. Dave, any tips for people surviving this week? Any quarantine tips from a master of the art form?
All I will say is, I'm not panicking. I'm reacting to other people panicking. I mean, this thing if we can the quarantine thing, we have to try it. Like, that's the thing that does work.
Yeah, stay home for a little bit.
Yeah, so, and then in terms of, like, the girl season stuff, there really is no reason to panic. I just simply bought, like, extra pasta and stuff in case something goes bad. I'm plain Jane. I can eat plain pasta.
Oh, yeah. I remember you saying your mom told you'll never go hungry if you have a loaf of bread and peanut butter.
True, yeah. So little stuff like that.
Yeah. We just grew up in quarantine, basically. That's, cool. Financial quarantine, baby. Welcome to our world. Thanks for listening, everybody. Million Little Bye.